Hi, and welcome to Fiberchats. This year, Martin, the host of Knit 365 blog, and I decided to collaborate and knit together, participate together in the Mystery Knit Along of Stephen West. You might have seen my interview with Stephen West when I talked to him about the whole preparation that's going into the Mystery Knit Along, or my interview with Linda, his test knit coordinator, to get like behind the scenes glimpse at how it's being prepared. But I was also wondering, who are the people who make West Knits so successful? And I wanted to interview you guys. So today I present to you the first chapter of a series of mini interview compilation that I'm calling Humans of Westknits Mystery Knit Along 2022. So let me understand this. You living first in Arizona, then you're moving to Florida, and yet knitting somehow is like big part of your life. How is that?
So, my parents were raised in northeastern Ohio, and my dad was in the military. So when we were moving around as a military family, we lived all north. It was North Dakota, Michigan, New York, Ohio. So it was all that. And we didn't move to Arizona until I was 15. My mother has been knitting as long as I can remember. You know, she almost always had knitting needles in her hand or had some project or, had some stuff. She sewed, she crocheted, she painted, she drew. She's that person.
Right.
So, my father actually taught me how to crochet initially, and my dad's a lefty. So I was really young. I was like 7 or 8, and my mom wasn't in the picture for a while, but dad wanted me to learn. And so he tried to learn, and his hand was all like curled around backwards and upside down. And so that's how I learned. When I was like this 8-year-old kid, I'm crocheting like weirdly upside down. I couldn't repeat it now if I tried, but my mother, when she came back, she's like, "What on earth are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm crocheting, Mom." "No, honey, no." So she fixed that. And so she also tried to teach me knitting. And as I mentioned in my email, she took me to a relative's house, and I was a very sensitive young lady, like any kind of criticism. I did not deal with it well at all. I've grown up. I deal with it fine just now. But I had some relative, I was literally just learning. I only knew knit stitch. I didn't even know how to purl yet. And I was not good at it yet because, you aren't at the beginning. And so this relative said, "What? She doesn't know how to purl yet?" And that got into my little brain and freaked me out. And I was like, "Nope, not going to do it."
It's so funny because I'm like this, I was the same exact way because I was, my grandma taught me how to knit and purl actually. And I was just like working on my first scarf, like the plain, very, very long scarf. And then I came home and my mom was like, "Listen, you're never gonna wear this. It's like, it all like looks, handmade."
Oh my gosh, who cares?
And I just unraveled the whole thing and didn't touch knitting until 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Sometimes like when you're a kid, fast remark can like
exactly, just one little thing will turn the corner. So I grew up crocheting, and Mom would knit and I would crochet, and Mom crocheted a little, but her favorite thing was knitting. And so in my head, I was like, okay, knitting is Mom's thing, crocheting is mine. And I tried to learn how to knit a couple of different times along the way, and it just didn't click. Found out later that I had blocked it, right? That I had put that block up, and my brain would not allow me to get through that block. So life went on. I went to school, had a really intense, I was working full time and doing school full time. So I was not doing anything else. Got done with school, and I needed to be creative. I needed to work with my hands. And I started looking at patterns again. And this is now all of a sudden, you know, everything's all over Pinterest, and I didn't even know about Ravelry yet, but every pattern I was falling in love with was a knit pattern. And I sat there for a minute and I'm like, okay, you know what? I realized that I had put this big block up because of one human being. There are literally millions of people in the world who knit. And for me to ignore a kind of crafting because of one person is just silly.
Right.
And so it was funny. I started to learn and just picked it up like crazy. And I imagine that all the different times I tried, it was like 3 or 4. And the fact that I didn't fight, and I'm a continental knitter because of, you know, held the yarn in the right place. So it just flew. It was fine. It clicked in my head and I was able to do it. And then, yeah, so that's how knitting became a thing.
Well, how did you discover Steven and his patterns?
So I joined a knitting club in Phoenix, and we were all meeting by Zoom calls. Like every Wednesday night, we'd have like 3 hours where we would get on a big Zoom call and everybody would talk about what they were making. And I honestly don't remember if I was poking around on YouTube or Pinterest and came across one of his things, or if somebody mentioned the MKAL that was coming up, which that strikes more true to me in the crazy memory banks. And I went and looked at some of his stuff and found him on YouTube and found his instructions and saw just not only his creativity, but the structure he puts into his shawls just really impressed me. And then when I saw how he taught and how he was just like so easy breezy about it. He's like, okay, well, you do it this way, and I'm going to flip my hand and I'm going to do it for the other type of knitters, and this is how you do it this way. And all of these concepts that when you add them together, they look like insanity, like beautiful insanity, but he breaks it down. And so it's just easy. And so I have no fear, you know, it's yarn. I was like, okay, well, I can afford the yarn. I can afford the project. I'll try this thing. Yeah, that's how I ended up with the shawl.
Well, you know what I love about your story? That I feel like this is what a lot of knitters can relate to. Because when you listen to Steven, he gives you this like freedom of like what could possibly go wrong, like just try it. And or you don't like this color, take this color, or you don't have the whole skein of colors, use whatever you have in your stash and like little bits and pieces and marl them together. There's
Right?
this, like freedom of trying different textures, trying different, like there's, you want to add a little fuzziness, put a little bit of my hair in it. Like there's so much freedom in his designs that like, I love how there's like thousands of people who would knit the same shawl and they all look completely different.
That was the other thing. I didn't dig into Ravelry because I was still figuring that out. I really didn't know much about Ravelry. But I was really impressed as the knit along started last year, watching everybody's colors and how, like Kristen Lair from New York, hers was just so muted and just beautiful. And then others who have the neon colors, and it's not, those are not colors I would personally ever choose. But to see how somebody else took these colors that are, and they're beautiful together.
When you did the first mystery knit along, right? This is the first experience you knitting this first crazy shawl design. And it wasn't an easy design because there is some stitches that even the test knit coordinator for Westknits, Linda, was talking about, like, I'm never knitting those stitches again, even if he's putting them in the pattern. Like a lot of people had some trouble with like certain parts of that design, right? There's brioche section, which like as a new knitter, it's a nightmare, right? Until you learn it.
Yes.
What I mean, I know it sounds almost rude, right? But what possesses you to join it again into this madness?
Okay. So what I haven't talked about is I learned a long time ago that just in life, there's not really a lot to be afraid of. I mean, yes, there are bad people, there are bad experiences, but I learned to take my fears and face them. Not that I was afraid of this, but it was a lot of unknown. And like I said, you can go in and look at Stephen's patterns and they can become intimidating very quickly, you know? And I just looked at it. It was like, okay, look, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen to me? I sit on my couch. I figure out that this is too advanced for me. And I back up, tear this thing out, and use that yarn to make something else. And then I try again next year. That's what possessed me to do it. And the fact that his other videos that I'd seen were just so instructive and they were encouraging. And there was a little bit about the camaraderie, but I hadn't really understood that yet. Not until I was really in it. But it was it was a challenge. And it was something I'd never done before. And there was literally no risk. So why not?
Well, are you team kit or team stash?
So I want to be able to get a kit at some point. This year it was not doable for me. So I actually ended up looking in my stash, but I didn't have enough. I've got anything I've got quantity of is either spoken for or it didn't fit the yarn criteria, right? So I ended up going to, I bought separate and from a more economical website because, you know, that's just the way I was deciding to do it this year. So last year, it took me a bit to figure, because I did pull out of stash. I think I bought one skein of yarn last year. But it took me a lot of playing with colors and putting things together and trying to find the balance. And I ended up, I actually still have my swatch. So this is my swatch.
Beautiful.
Thank you. From last year, I actually have the shawl sitting right here. But that's what I ended up with. The purple was the last minute addition. It was everything. It was kind of flat and boring. Purple's not my favorite color, but I had it in my stash and it was actually for a project for another person. So I ended up having to replace the skein, but I pulled it out and threw it into my mix. I went, there we are.
Works, yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect. I did this year when he was going over the video with the kits, I can afford to buy one of his kits, but none of them inspired me enough. There were a couple that I was like, wow, that's nice. It is, they're pretty. There were several of them that were very, very nice. But none of them that said, hey, take me home. The only one that was close was the one that had the Kelpie, and I think the yarn was called Old Maiden Aunt, and it had the Kelpie color that was like that blue kind of green. Yeah, that one spoke to me and I almost got that one, but decided to go a different direction because like I said, if it doesn't absolutely scream to me that it needs to come home with me, it doesn't come home with me.
Well, you know what I also love about it about the kits, how they put this collection of kits together, but I also love the flexibility of these designs. Because you can go, like the kits had different price points. So they were like more economical options. There were super luxurious options that like, you know, you need to save up to be able to afford. Yeah. And when you do it from your stash, it gives you this flexibility of just going on your own budget, like whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
And also
Absolutely.
it gives you the flexibility to change your mind the last second. So like when the clue comes out and you're like, you know, I might do better than that. You can change your mind at that point.
Right. I think even if you get a kit, if it comes down to it and you want to switch one of the colors out from the kit for another one that's in your stash, I think you should.
If a person thinking about like when they never done a West knit design and they don't know what to expect, and they're like, I don't know if I hear all this brioche and cross stitches and all these nightmarish terms. Should I even attempt to try it? Like, what would be your advice?
Yes. If you look at his other stuff and you like it, then try.
So here we have Christopher McGovern, and Christopher, known as Professor Purl on Instagram, was a guest of episode number 18. So if you guys haven't watched that interview, you simply must. Like
OG Fiberchats.
Right. So why Stephen West? Like, what attracts you to his designs? Because you're a designer yourself. Like, how do you view his designs?
I love the construction. I think I always learn something with them. And I never did the mystery knit along before because I don't like surprises.
Me neither.
Yeah.
It's going to be my first.
My best friend gave me a surprise party for my 40th. And if I could have skipped it, I would have. I don't like surprises. But, you know, I think this time I just thought, you know, let's let go and let West. We'll just do it. So I did stash. I want to see my yarn.
Yeah, of course.
So I got La Bien-Aimée. I have, these are the two.
I love that.
Oh, I think you can sort of see it. The colors, I think this is kind of what they are. So this one's called, this one's Tidal Sands. This one's Yellow Brick Road. So these are going to be the two main, right? And I don't know, I think he's going to tell us like which is the main and which is not. But this one had a little yellow in it. So I like that part. And then I have Hedgehog,
I love
which is, isn't it pretty? And it's in Wish. So I think that's going to be good.
I mean, honestly, like that's so tempting for me to go that way myself, because like I was playing with different colors.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, my love of blue. So like anything blue, like I'm immediately like, oh, pretty. So I love that combination. I'm sort of thinking of going pinks this time.
Oh, okay.
So like I was thinking of that as the pop.
Oh, yes.
And that as the one.
Oh, that's pretty. And what would the other one be?
And then gray for that.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty. Well,
but
like the one I have.
Yeah, but like don't hold me to that. Like I might change my mind on October 6th.
Yeah.
I'm still like keeping my options open.
Yeah. So I just wanted to do it this year. I mean, part of it is I saw everybody having so much fun. I mean, it looks like, you know, I think there's the sense of community with the knitters is we could always use a big dose of that. So, and I think it's around, I mean, how fun for him to be able to have developed this, that excitement in the fall, and everybody's like, what yarns are you going to use and what's going to happen and how's the, so I thought I'd just like, you know, give into it this year and just try. I mean, I watched Shawlography last year, and I mean, I had a little like regret that I didn't do it because it looked really fun. And then the little shrimp rings that went around. I mean, it just looked like a lot of fun. The vertices, the biggest thing for me with him is the construction. I just think they're so interesting. And the vertices unite, I could just knit it over and over and over and over again. It's a great stash buster.
Right.
And it looks so different. I remember us talking about this back when I did the interview with you first, is you use your version of it, the colors you would pick would be so different than someone else, than the ones he originally picked. I mean, he goes way brighter than I would wear.
Right.
But when you do his designs on colors that are in your palette, they're great. And they're fun.
And I love that like you can see it on some like funky 20-year-old, but you can also see it on a very conservative 70-year-old. Like it doesn't matter. It can be man, woman, like whatever, you know, it's like there is no reason why somebody could not wear Stephen West. And I saw actually one color, and Pierre is like that, you know, Pierre.
I love that shawl.
I love that shawl. And I made like, he did it it's in decay. I did it in fingering. So I just added a few more sections, and I did like this cranberry bog kind of theme for a dear friend of mine. So it's like, there's so many opportunities of show your artistic self in any of his shawls, you know.
So how many, you did it in fingering weight?
I did it in
So how many did you add?
I think it was like a couple extra sections, but I'm such a loose knitter. Like it's a very fun, you know, common joke of me being a woman of loose knitting. So I gauge like never feels, even though like it's funny because when I watch Stephen knit, when he does his tutorials, it seems like he's so loose, but somehow like his gauge is tighter than mine.
Yeah. He's also, do you do English or continental? Because that might make it different.
I'm continental.
Well, see, I'm English. That's interesting. I'm English. I tend to go on a little tighter side.
Right. No, English knitting is tighter than continental, like always.
Yeah. Well, I just taught my husband Fair Isle, so he's doing great. But so both fingers, he was left-handed. So I taught him to throw, and now he's got both of them, and it's sort of like
Actually,
He's great at it.
I do two hands also. Like I
Yeah.
do, I throw with one hand and I do continental with another. So
Yeah.
it's actually easier for me that way.
Yeah. I'm just excited. This is going to be really fun. And I hope there's something really scary in it. I mean, I hope there's.
Okay, let's talk about it. Like, what scares you? You know what scared me, right?
Well,
Socks. Like your expertise was the one that scared me because Professor Purl is like he is just the master of sock designs. And if you guys haven't knitted his sock, I mean, I learned my first socks was his pattern. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. Please.
And yours were beautiful. You did a great job.
It was, yeah, and it was with cables. It wasn't even like a simple vanilla sock, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like definitely check out his sock patterns.
Yeah.
But like, what scares you in knitting? What?
I mean, I don't think anything scares me. I think I'm not a big, so I just, brioche is not something, he always has brioche. And then he says there's a non-brioche option, but if there's brioche in it, I'm going to do it. I just think it doesn't always look good to me. His looks great. But I think part of it is, I think sometimes the ones I've seen with the brioche, it's too loose. It looks like they're doing it on too big a needle. Like,
right.
6 needle with fingering weight it looks loop. It's not lacy enough to be lace, but then it looks loop. It just doesn't look right to me.
Right.
So if there's a brioche one, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna brioche myself into a stupor. I'm a brioche that stuff. But that's really the only. And I think, I mean, I'm certainly not afraid of cables. I mean, you hear twist and turn, right? So I heard you and Martin talking about it. Like, what's it going to be? Is it going to be cables, or are we going to be going like? That would be, if it was like a version of vertices with cables and a little like this kind of stuff, it would be amazing. Or it goes sideways. Or...
Do you like, as a designer, right? Like, do you think it's difficult for Steven to like outdo himself every year? Like, do you think he wakes up? How do you think he plans that knit along? Do you think he has some like wild inspiration, or do you think he thinks, what haven't I done? Let me use those techniques and just try to make something new. What's your theory?
I don't know. I think one of the things I think that, and I don't know him, but he's a dancer. And as a dancer, I think and when you watch, I mean, he dances in some of his, Instagram posts and videos. So it's so free. And like, it looks to me like he had modern and ballet training. So it's sort of like go with the flowish. And even when I've seen him interviewed, I think he talked about it on yours. He just starts going and then something else happens. And then it gets formalized as he plays around. But I don't think he thinks that way. Like, oh, I got to do better than I did before. I mean, I think he probably thinks like, what do I feel like would be fun? And then let's bring along thousands and thousands of people for the ride.
Well, you know what I love? Because there are thousands and thousands of people. And there's also different. There are people who like expert knitters, and there are people who never knitted and just learned to knit like 3 weeks before, and they also participate in it. And somehow everybody ends up with a beautiful shawl at the end of this mystery knit along, one way or another. Yeah. And I remember like my first Steven West shawl was, I think it was like, and now I'm blanking the name, of course, but it's like, hold on, let me look it up. Dotted race, speckled fade. Yeah, go say that 5 times fast.
Talking about the different colors, my husband made a Pierre shawl that was like more chocolatey. It had those kind. Mine was kind of cool, like grays and a little bit of like light lavender and stuff. And they look so. I mean, we can both wear them, and they don't look like we're matchy. Yeah. So I don't know if anything else scares me. I think it doesn't scare me so much as like, I don't know that I want to do, 800 stitches of brioche. I just don't know if I want to do that, but I'm going to do it. Like, because I want it to be not the alternate one. I want it to be the thing.
You know what? The only thing that scares me at this point is the picot edging on like 1500 stitches.
Yeah.
That thing almost killed me.
Yeah. And when I finally got done the vertices, then it's like, and there's an I-cord bind off around the entire thing.
Right.
But you know what? That's really, those kind of things are good for like TV knitting. So you just mindlessly kind of do it till it's over.
Somehow, I-cord, I don't mind at all. Like I-cord, I can knit for hours because you don't need to count. It just
that's true.
But with the picot, you have to count actually, because it's like you bind off 3 and then you add 6. So like you do 5 or 4, then the math doesn't add up.
Do you think the cables are going to go different? Like, cables are sort of linear a lot. Do you think they're going to go like I don't know.
I love the twisty cables. You know what? I just finished the this shawl that had like the craziest. Hold on, let me see if I find it. Yeah, this one.
Oh, it's so oh, those are like,
So
is
it's
it
on lace,
two?
it's cables on lace.
Oh,
And
pretty.
the circular cable. So you start from the center and then you
Yeah.
go around. So cables, like I got it. Like I'm
Yeah.
not scared of cables after this show, you know?
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be great. It's really fun. I mean, and it's really, I see why people do it, because
Right.
having never done it, now I started following the hashtag, and I mean, my whole Instagram is knitting people. So I saw that, you know, I've seen it year after year. I've seen people, here's my yarn, here's where I am, here's what stage I'm at. But I never had, like, you know, skin in the game. Now I'm like, you know,
Well,
well,
this is my first mystery knit along as
yeah,
well, like officially, because
yeah,
I always wait until the end of the mystery
to
and then
see
I
it.
just pop in and knit the whole thing. Like I've done that a few times, but like to actually do one clue at a time
Yeah.
and wait for them to come out, like I haven't done that. So you and me both gonna be waiting on us.
We're on mystery knit along virgins. We're losing our virginity to mystery knit along.
I mean, when you knit, like, do you knit on multiple projects all the time? So
You
you
know,
something else to fill your time with?
I always have socks going, but I don't think, I think with this, because I really want to stay current. Like, I want to do it. So, and it's good because I just got my teaching schedule. I have Fridays off. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, but yeah, no, I think with this, I'm just going to stick to my knitting
Right.
and just do it. I think I'm really excited about it. I think it's gonna be really fun. And I love seeing everybody's when it's done. Like, I just think the shellography one, some of them I saw, I just thought people did not choose wisely, color wise. And it's so silly because he tells you, like, I've even seen some pairings that I'm like, he said make them contrast, but maybe people don't do Fair Isle. If they're
Right.
not contrasting, there's a lot of, like, maybe it's mosaic, which you really have to see the contrast.
Right.
But and then the other thing I think is so smart that he does, and I think he does it like out of just genuine concern of making people have a good experience, is those videos. So I watched, even though I didn't do shellography, I watched his videos, and so he's very patient, and he says, you know, don't stress, say yes, and so people don't get all uptight about it. They just, you know, and he's strictly in my court. He's like, you know what, you got a few extra stitches at the end, knit them together and move on, unless it's like really going to kill the pattern. Just
Right.
move on.
Well, I mean, like, do you usually do it with your own knitting, or do you like, are you a perfectionist when it comes to your stuff?
Yeah. I mean, unless it's really going to be something that's glaringly bad, no, I don't care. I made a mistake on one of these socks. And I was like, yeah, it's all right. Nobody's going to know. And if I give them to somebody and they're looking that hard, then it's the last pair of socks they're going to get.
I love that. So what are you up to nowadays besides the mystery knit along? What are you working? Like, give us some secret information, some mystery.
Secret knitting information. I have a dish towel set that's going to be coming out, pattern.
Oh, that's a great idea actually for the Christmas gifts.
Yeah, and you know why? Because I don't like knitting with cotton, but dish towels, I mean,
Right.
so I have those coming out. I had two. It was really fun. I had a collaboration this year with Arcane Fiber up in Canada. Did something called Band Geek socks, which are, and I loved working with their yarn. It's 80/20. It's like butter, really
Right.
pretty. And then I have a couple things sort of in the works in terms of collabs. But the dish towel thing, that's going to be out pretty soon. I mean, it's a set of 3. So, and you know what? They're going to have little patterning on them, but they're dish towels, so they need to hold up to a lot of use. So that's going to be the next thing, is a dish towel set, and they're really good for Christmas, and they're fast. When
Right.
you're working on socks on 1s and 1.5s all the time, I'm like, wow, I just sat there and watched like 2 episodes of something and I banged out a dish towel because they're
Well,
on
I mean,
6 or 7.
when you work on socks, do you ever get the second sock syndrome?
Never. I've never. You know why? So here's my thing. This is my rule. The minute you finish the toe, if it's cuffed down, cast on that second one. Don't get up from the sofa. Cast on that second one, because otherwise you won't. I think the second one goes faster to me.
Right.
Part of it is because I'm usually working a pattern out. This is something I'm sort of working on, but
I love that. That's so cute.
yeah, and this is that shopper wool stuff, that crazy Zauberball crazy. I'm working the pattern out on the first one, and then the second one, it's like I'm sort of doing my test knit. myself. So I just pretend I don't know what I'm doing, and then it goes faster because I've already done the pattern. So that's really how I do it.
Right.
No, I don't really get second sock, and it's only grown. What size shoe are you? I'm gonna send you 5 of them. I have like boxes of socks.
I would love some socks.
Email me your shoe size and your favorite color. Merry Christmas.
Hey, you know my favorite color already.
Yes, I do. I have a lot of those.
Well, thank you so much for
You got it.
stopping by my channel again.
Tell Martin I'm a big fan, and Martin with a Y. And
Martin is a big fan.
I am, and I'm addicted to his Christmas blog, where he makes the it's Toft, right? The stuffed the toys, stuffed toys. So great. Anyway, I love his blog, and his husband's funny, and he's great. So I'm
so
delighted
glad that you're like part of our mystery knit along, and you and I can talk about our,
we'll be
first
texting.
mystery. Yeah,
we'll be texting.
So tell me, like, how did you discover Steven West for yourself?
Well, if you have any if you follow like social media, like the Knitstagram, of course you bump into Steven West, and I've always loved his aesthetic. Like he's like these bold stitch patterns and colors, and that really appeals to me. So I did my first shawl, the painting bricks. That was my first Steven West, and then I just got more into that, and it went from there.
Well, you've participated in mystery knit alongs before, right?
Yes.
So how was the experience? Like, did you enjoy the mystery part of it?
Yes, like I really like everything he does. So that's not a problem. I'm fine with all the quirks, and yeah, I really love that mystery aspect.
I mean, is there anything that you ever apprehensive about and like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this technique kind of
well
thing?
I was a bit hesitant about the brioche, but that did come last year, and I was fine with it. So the only thing is that I don't know how to fix brioche. So like with many people, many knitters, that's the problem, when you can't go back and fix the mistakes.
Right. Well, what did you enjoy about last year's mystery knit along?
I think it's the community. Like we had like a small chat group with friends and other podcasters, and like it's the excitement that's like all around you, and I think that's the best thing, the community, definitely.
What, so are you team Kit or team Stash this year?
Neither, actually. I have I ordered some custom skeins from my friend, so I didn't choose a ready-made kit, but my friend curated a kit for me.
Right. Can you tell us the colors?
Anyone who has seen any of my knitting, they know that I'm into fall colors.
Oh, those
and here they are.
That's going to be gorgeous.
Yeah, I think so.
Last year, did you also go that way? Like, did you also order the custom dyed?
Nope. I was completely stash diving last year. I actually have the shawl here with me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I just had one full skein, and the rest were just bits and bobs, and I made it work. So there was, I bought one skein, and the rest was from the stash.
Right. If somebody is hesitant about trying the mystery knit along because they maybe not experienced knitters, so they don't know too many techniques, what would be your advice?
I think Steven does such an amazing job with the videos that I don't think there is anything too difficult for anyone. Like, he is an amazing teacher, and he just explains everything so well, and he explains it for the continental and the English style knitting community. So I think just go for it. That's my opinion.
If you had a lunch date with Steven, is there a question that's on your mind that you would like to ask him?
Just maybe like, how does he come up with all these crazy ideas? He's such an inspirational designer. He always comes up with these quirky and crazy ideas, and I think it's fantastic. So maybe I would ask that.
Well, when you need his designs, do you customize it all, or do you just follow the instructions, go stitch as he says?
I usually customize everything, but with Steven's patterns, I have not. So I don't know, maybe it's how straightforward all the instructions are. There has not been a single thing when I had to change anything. So
how do you think you changed as a knitter after knitting the first Westknits shawl?
Patience. I think, well, the painting bricks was the first one, and it's a large shawl and it takes a long time. And if I wasn't knitting that with my we were knitting it together with my friend, so we were just like cheering each other up, and I don't think I would have had the patience before. And all the mysteries have also been quite time consuming.
Right. I mean, do you feel like pressured because you have to stay on that next clue is coming and you have to finish this week's clue? Like, does that put pressure on you at all?
It does a bit, because I'm very competitive, and there's no way that I wouldn't finish. Like, I need to, like, I'm not going to finish after the second clue is released. So I'm a little bit competitive, so I need to finish before.
You are in Finland. Have you ever walked into anybody on the street who was wearing one of Steven West's shawls?
Actually, I haven't, but once I was in a grocery store, and it was just after I finished last year's shawl, and she knew what shawl I was wearing, so that was kind of fun.
What's your favorite, like, why did you decide to join Martin and I? Like, what's your favorite thing about this collaboration?
I actually started watching Martin 2 years ago when he was doing his Vlogtober, and I was trying to knit the Slipstravaganza as well, and that's when I started watching his podcast. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of Martin, so that's one of the reasons.
I can watch him endlessly. I always watch all his episodes as soon as
me too.
Well, I'm so glad you're joining us, and I can't wait to see what you're going to create this year with those beautiful colors of yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being my guest today. For those of you who haven't seen episode 106, you should mark somewhere on a piece of paper and go back and watch Sita's full interview, because she is such a wonderful woman and became a good friend. Welcome back to Fiberchats.
Thank you, Arina. And I just have to add that it was soon after that interview that I started my own channel, and you were a big inspiration. So you inspired me.
Oh, thank you. I'll put the link to your channel on the description of this video.
Please do.
And the idea of this video is really to introduce the knitters of West Knit Along, Mystery Knit Along, to other knitters. So you guys go follow, go say hi, say, I saw you on Fiberchats. Hi, Sita. So please become friends with each other. I mean, I know you're a huge fan of Steven West and his all of his designs, and you always modify them. Like, do you think this time when you're doing Mystery Knit Along, you're gonna follow each clue and each direction, or do you think there is gonna be Sita's version of Westknits Mystery Knit Along?
Well, that's pretty hard to say right now, but you know, it's something that I don't actually consciously do when I modify a pattern. It's normally in the middle of a section and my eye happens to glance at something that gives me an idea, and then I'm picking up the color and off I go. So the chances are I probably will modify something. I'm going to do my best to stick to the 3 colors that I've pledged myself to this time, because that's also difficult. So let's say yes, I'm going to do my best, but I can't promise.
Well, you are in South Africa, right? So it's, are you team kit or team stash? Is it cost prohibitive to ship the kit to South Africa?
You know, I've drooled over all the kits that Stephen has showed and everybody has showed. And our local dyers have also come to the party and put out some wonderful kits as well. Right. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that I'm sitting with a lot of undyed yarn and I love dyeing and yeah, so, you know, I dyed up actually last month. I ordered a lot of yarn and I just dyed, not particularly with the Miss Genius Long in mind, but I dyed a good selection, and I've picked 3, and one is actually undyed. I'm using one blank, let's say, color, and teaming it with 2 lovely bright pops. Would you like to see them?
I would absolutely love to see them.
Okay. Well, you know, I made, if you know the painting bricks shawl.
Yeah.
I recently posted those pictures on my story on Instagram. I made one. I mean, I make 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know how. Every shawl I duplicate many times, many times. And that's one of my favorites. And I made one where I used, you know, the brick, not the inside of the brick, what I call the glue, all the garter stitch section that hold the bricks. I made it out of a skein of plain undyed. And I teamed it up inside those bricks with bright orange and bright yellow. And it was so stunning. And so that's my thinking again. So this is going to be my main color. This is going to be my second,
I love that.
Contrast, I think it's called. So there'll be 2 of this and 2 of this. This is a lovely pinks, and it's got orange, which is obviously my favorite color, and a bit of blue, all sorts, but it's not speckled. It's just nicely toned.
Yeah.
And then this is the pop, which is quite poppy. It's Tangerine Dream. That's what I call it. And yeah, I think it's going to be fun. You know, I think that's going to be
so funny, because this is not the combination I would ever pick myself. Like if I went to the store and I had like all the skeins hanging there, I would never put this combination together, but I'm like totally obsessed with it now.
Well, you know, it's the same for me. I mean, I've had all these yarns that I've dyed. I've made a few colorways actually that can go with the skein of natural, and they all work. But I've kind of been sort of looking at them and thinking maybe I'll still see something else. You know, maybe somebody will dye something that will just grab me. I've decided, no, this is it. And it's basically because I made that shawl and it was so beautiful that I know this will work. So this is my choice and I love it.
You know how like people talk about like Westknits pushing them to step outside of their comfort zone. I mean, you don't have a comfort zone. The whole world is your comfort zone. Like, is there ever something that pushes you outside of comfort zone?
Well, I can tell you the first time I made a Westknits mystery knit along, which is actually the speckle and pop. Now I'm wearing that right now. This is my first one. I dyed all this yarn. You can see my colors. I was so excited, and you know, I signed up and I started knitting, and I was pushed outside my comfort zone. I didn't realize something could be difficult, or that I didn't know how to do something, but I realized there were a lot of things. But they were fun, you know, they were such fun learning opportunities. So, you know, I have an idea, and I'm sort of not a gambling type, but I could almost bet on this, that I had this feeling that we were going to be doing 2 color cables.
Somebody mentioned that, and I was like terrified of that.
Yeah. So you know what I did? The other day I went and I'm on YouTube and I found Suzanne Bryant's tutorial on 2 color cables. And I love the idea anyway. I have seen there's somebody who I follow that does these 2-color cables. So I made a swatch of a 2-color cable using my colors. Unfortunately, I've pulled most of it out, but it's not difficult and it was great fun. So I thought, wow, I wonder, you know, also because intarsia seems to be such a big thing these days, maybe, you know, someone's mind. So I'm preparing myself for 2-color cables.
Well, is there like any technique that scares you at all?
Oh, well, you know, there is the dear old brioche, which it just scares me because, you know, if I mess it up, then I panic. So I don't always do brioche. I'm sure there's not going to be a brioche section. I'm also not really a huge lover of the texture, the squashy stretch. It doesn't get me, you know. So brioche, I would say, is something I would be happy to not be doing. Otherwise, no. I enjoy those funny crossover stitches in the shawlography were also a bit of a pain. And I actually ended up having to cut off my cable because the whole thing got so tight that I couldn't move it. But I got it right eventually, you know. No, I'm just looking forward to something big and bright and gorgeous. And actually my colors are also inspired. Right now we're in spring. And we're in the Western Cape area of our country. We have this natural kingdom of spring flowers that just spring up. And they're all these bright, shocking purple, pink, orange, gorgeous. And I'm just so in the mood for that right now. So I think this will be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I mean,
let's talk about the mystery part of the knit along, because I understand the appeal. Like, I'm still on the bench. This is going to be my official first mystery knit along, right? Where I'm really waiting for the clues to come out, because I would always wait until the last clue comes out and then knit the whole thing in 1 week, you know, like I cannot, like, I have hard time pacing myself. So waiting and patience, it's not one of my virtues, let's just say. What attracts you to mystery knit along?
Well, I'm with you on that. I'm totally impatient. I want the whole thing now. And, you know, I have actually knitted one knit along in tandem. So I've knitted 2 at the same time because, you know, it was just over in 2 days. And like, what am I going to do now? Right. But the fact of the matter is that I knit anyway multiple things. So, and I've got in October, I've got another fun thing that I'm doing with another podcaster. So I've got other very exciting things that I can fill in the space with. The mystery for me is, you know, it's life. It's the way actually I love life. It's not knowing what's around the corner, you know. We're just going to go and make ourselves available and see what happens. And we may not like it. Well, okay, you can stop. You know, you don't have to kill yourself and go to the end. If you don't like it, you just do something different. And I have done, and I've seen many people have changed the border and gone this way and that way. But it's also the fact of that we're all making these beautiful shawls together. And since I've joined the YouTube family, I've made contact with a lot of my own community in South Africa, who and there are so many of us that are actually that do the Stephen West make-alongs, and a lot of our dyers are doing the kits. So it's the community, you know. I mean, as knitters, you know, we mostly sit in our room on our bed and on our own mostly, and I knit everywhere, but you knit by yourself, you know, and nobody else in your house generally gets it. And here we are, there are thousands of us, and we all get it.
I mean, there are so many designers out there, right? Do you think Stephen West is like revolutionary in our day and age?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Without a doubt, Stephen West is like, to me, when I was knitting in my early or late teens, when Caffey Facet was the one, you know, and they made all the Caffey Facet. It's the same for me. He's a genius. He's just a playful, amazing. I love that kind of mind, you know, that it comes out of play and mistake and, oh, it doesn't matter, and just add the stitches in, and oh, what's the shape? And I love it. No, yes, I think he is spot on, really doing exactly what he needs to be doing. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And if he came to South Africa, I'd be the first one there to see him.
Stephen? This is the contact point in South Africa if you go to
Absolutely.
South Africa.
It's a beautiful country, lots of merino, lots of mohair.
I'm sure he would love that. Well, if somebody's
Yeah.
thinking like, should I join the knit along? Should I not? Like, what's your advice?
Well, I would say, yes, definitely. Why not? What have you got to lose? You know, if you like knitting, or if you want to see what us crazy people are up to, and maybe you'll become addicted yourself, definitely join it. But you know, it takes a certain type of knitter, and there are not very many. Well, there must be, there are thousands. But I mean, I have quite a few knitting friends and some serious knitters. But I think I basically have two personal friends, and I will travel by bus for 5 hours. We're going to start the knit along together, you know, and everything. There are very few of us that would do that. But it's such great fun that it becomes a bit infectious, you know, and people then just have a fear of missing out. That's all. And then if that's enough to get them started, good for them.
But you know what I noticed? Like a lot of times when I talk to people, they would say something, oh, I love it on him, but it's not for me. And I find that that's not true, because there's so many different combinations. And I've seen like some shawls in just like plain one color, and they look still gorgeous just because of textural differences. And there are like very subdued shawls, and there are very like out there shawls. So I find it like it works for everybody. You just need to let yourself dictate your aesthetic like color palette.
Definitely. And also, you know, I think we are also being educated a bit about shawls. A lot of people, you know, they say, oh, I don't know how to wear it, you know, I'd never wear it. I mean, there is not a day that goes by I wear about 3 of my shawls in a daytime, you know. I mean, but I mean, personally, I'm a textile designer, and that is actually what draws me to shawl knitting, is that to create this fabric that drapes and flows, and that to me is magic. And you know, people, they say, oh, I will never wear them, but you put one over their shoulders and they're completely surprised, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I think, I don't know, what are we, 15,000 or something people doing this mystery knit along, you know. And there are many others that happen, as we know, throughout the year. So right. By other designers. And I do enjoy quite a few designers, obviously, but yeah, Stephen has definitely changed my attitude to knitting. And actually it was sort of a wake-up call that I saw the interview you did with Linda, and I basically also, the first thing I knitted was that mild magic sweater, and it was knitted in all these weird pieces, and I thought, gosh, this is just going to look totally ridiculous, you know. And it was huge, and I carried on and carried on. It was the first time I did an I-cord bind off that took about 6 hours, you know. I thought, you get to the end, I mean, this is not the end, you know, and it was just magic. And yeah, I think he has a mind. We all have our gifts, and this is a specific gift. Yeah.
You're a self-proclaimed Westknits super fan. How many knits patterns do you think you knitted? Do you remember?
Oh, definitely dozens. I mean, I want to say it's 30, 40, maybe.
Well, this is going to be your fourth one, the MKAL?
Third MKAL, yeah.
So like, what do you like about the MKAL? What brings you back to it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I know I watched your video with Linda and how she said it was like her Christmas. It's definitely like my Christmas. Like, this is like the month I look forward to. I hate being bored. So, I mean, that's why I love Stephen's patterns, because you don't get bored with them, right? Like, it's always changing. There's like a new thing to learn, a new color to add. So the MKAL is like that on steroids, like, because you don't know what's coming next, and he's going to put 20 new things in it, and so yes, it's just like so exciting.
Are you team stash or team kit? What are you this year?
Okay, so I kind of did both, because I ordered a ton of yarn from some of his dyers, like Labianame and Ching Fiber, and then I'm like treating that as a stash that I'm making kits from. So I've got, you know, like 20 potential kits.
That's smart, actually, I like that idea.
Yeah, I kind of splurged. This is like my big spend of the year.
What's your regular stash looks like?
Um,
Like on a scale from 1 to 10, where do you place yourself?
I think I'm pretty conservative. Like I do use the stash. I try to, and I don't. It's only in the past maybe year or so that I've started really like spending on yarn and like learning the different dyers and just acquiring things.
Are you afraid you're gonna turn into the yarn snob at some point?
I don't think I'm a snob. I think I've paid my dues. You know, like I started knitting when I was in college, when I was in grad school. So like, you know, I was like an exclusively a cheap yarn person for 15 years. So I kind of feel like, okay, now I've got, you know, I've got a good income. I can now spend it to support like indie dyers and stuff like that.
Have you ever met Steven's pattern that you were like, I don't know?
Sure. I mean, he's got like 400 patterns. So I would say they're not, you know, I'm not like dying to do all of them, but, you know, like I said, I like the ones that are really, like they change. So the ones that are a little more like meditative, or where it's like, you're just using one skein of yarn through the whole thing. Like those, I do get a little bored with those.
Well, like if you think about your whole knitting life, and then that moment when Steven West entered your life, do you think you are a different knitter now from before because of him?
Yeah. So I mean, I did my first Steven West pattern like 10 years ago. It was like the modish cowl.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I did like a couple here and there. I did like the Vertices Unite. And so I was just kind of like, you know, as things would cross my path and Ravelry or whatever, I would kind of just pick up whatever. But now I'd say in the last 2 years, like a couple months before the pandemic, I kind of got really into the Steven West patterns, and I've become a much more prolific knitter. Like all of this is from the last year, probably.
And I
2
love
years,
that
maybe.
wool. Yeah, I love that wool.
Thanks.
Do you wear them all the time?
I don't. Well, so I'm sensitive to wool, which is like the sadness of my life, because I really can't wear sweaters. So I'll wear the shawls if I'm like chilly, but I can't for like a long period of time. You know, I'm not I wear my knits every day kind of person. They're more to look at and enjoy.
Right. Well, if you go to like somewhere, right, let's say yarn festival or yarn store or anywhere, and you see another person wearing Steven West's shawl or sweater or something, is that immediate conversation starter?
I'm pretty shy, so I don't know if I would, but I would definitely clock it. And maybe I would try to find them on Instagram or something. But I do have one of my knitting friends, her name is Heather. She, like, we're friends because of Steven. Like, we both just love his patterns. We had a mutual friend who introduced us on Instagram, and we probably talk like every day just about like what the new pattern is and the MKAL and what yarn we're gonna pick. So it definitely has like brought me together with other knitters.
So like, I mean, talking back to yarn, right, for this mystery knit along, do you have already like preferred selection, or you still like every day you wake up and like, maybe I'll go back to this?
I have one that's jumping out. Do you want to see?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are all La Bien-Aimée. So I think this is going to be my main color. This is the cocoa. I love this one. And then this is, I think, going to be my accent, or the contrast. And then this one, which is like also the color of my wall. So it's like a favorite for me.
That looks.
So these are the front runners right now. I don't know if I'll switch, but you know, in the video with Linda, she said like, if you pick your favorite colors, you'll be good. And like, these are my two favorite colors. So I think I'll be good.
Well, when you think about like this collaboration that Martin and I am doing, like you can knit by yourself. You can be part, you know, just follow Steven and do it by yourself. Like, why would you join us? Like, what about Martin and I attracted you to our little thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just, you know, like I'm thinking about it so much. It's like, oh, I want to be watching other people think about it and like talk about it. I'll have my YouTube on while I'm knitting. And so yeah, it's just kind of like just basking in it.
If you met Steven, is there some question that you like dying to ask?
Oh, that's funny. I don't know that I would actually ask him, but I respect him as a business owner like so deeply. Like I also like own my own business, but it's not related to knitting or anything, but just seeing like he's like a genius with the branding, the marketing, you know, the timing, you know the MKAL's coming every year, you know, and they all sell out on the kits all sell out on the first day. And I just love to know how he runs his business and like, you know, how he makes those decisions and who he has helping him, if he has anybody, you know, with that like kind of CEO role.
I actually was like superbly impressed when I was interviewing him by how smart he is about all the business side of it. Like,
yeah, and that doesn't necessarily come with being a good knitter or an artist, you know,
right.
so.
And you would think because he's a dancer that he is not very practical, but he is very practical and he is very savvy. Like I was extremely impressed by that in him when I was talking to him actually.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly talented, but I don't think it's luck. That is why he's like the most famous knitter, you know, or the knit designer. Like there's more to it.
Do you have any ideas or expectations for this mystery knit along as far as like what techniques might be there or like what surprises await us?
No, I don't know. Well, you know, the video he posted, you know, with Carl, I think it was, where you know, he was talking about the shrimps, the I-cord shrimps, and it sounded like he's not going to do those. I'm glad because I didn't really care for those in the shawlography. And the cross, you know, the 8-stitch cross thing, I was not a fan of that. So I don't think those are going to be in this new one, but I'm open to anything else.
Martin and I talked about it, and Martin is all for mystery, right? Because he's like spacing himself and all his 14 plus 2 new customs, like 16. We're not counting work in progress. I'm on the other hand like extremely impatient, so like as soon as I get the clue I want to get to the next clue. Where are you in that spectrum?
I do have like 6 works in progress, but I'll you know, when the clue comes out it's going to be twists and turns, and I'll do it until I get it, because then I want to be able to post my photo and like look at everyone else's photo. Like you don't want to see spoilers, so that, you know, got to be kind of careful. So I like to just like get it as far as I can when the clue comes out.
When you see other people's posts, do you ever like, oh, I should have taken that color combination? Do you ever have regrets?
Sometimes, but then I have this like, you know, a folder on Instagram that's like my color inspiration. So I'll just save it, and then the next shawl that I have to pick 3 colors for, I'll steal their colors for that.
Do you find that Steven's aesthetics are yours, or do you find that other people's colors choices speak more to you?
That's a great question. I think you know, I love a bright yellow, a bright green. I do like the dark framing, you know, with the bright pops. So I will often align with him on that. But I have to say, like the kits this year, like none of them jumped out at me as like, oh, I have to have that. So, you know, I did kind of deviate a little bit, just a little bit. It's not, you know, what I came up with is not that different, but.
Right. I mean, is there like any technique that terrifies you that you're like, oh, please, like, don't be in it?
Not really. I mean, it's all, you just follow the instructions, and his videos are so helpful. I mean, you know, I didn't love the 8-stitch crossover. That just like it was so tedious.
Right.
So I would hope that's not there, but I don't mind brioche or, you know, anything like that.
Do you think of yourself as more of a project knitter or the process knitter?
Project for sure. For sure. Like in your interview with Steven, I sound like a super fan here because I've seen all the videos. But, you know, he said like he loves playing with the color and like figuring out what it's going to be. And then he's just knitting to finish it so he can do the next thing. That's definitely me.
Do you ever change his patterns around? Do you play with them, or do you just follow his directions?
No, I don't change them because because I'm very self-critical. So if something's wrong, if it doesn't feel right once I've done it, I'll blame myself. Whereas if I don't love the way he did it, I'm like, oh, but Steven knows, it's fine, you know?
Right.
Like in my shawlography, I did a mohair dare, like a self-initiated mohair dare. And I don't actually love the way it turned out because it's a little like too light there. I don't know.
So when you knit like the same shawl second time, is that like an old friend, or is it something becoming like totally meditative that you don't have to think about it? Like, what's your feeling about re-knitting something?
I very rarely re-knit. I've done 2 vertices unite, and that might be the only one I've done twice.
Okay, tell me about that, because you're the 3rd person today that tells me about that shawl and how you re-knitted it. So what about it is so great? Because that's like one of the things I haven't knitted.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's just like that was one of the first Stephen West designs I knitted, or it was maybe the 3rd one. It's just like it's fun. You get to pick the colors, and because they're all going to play with each other in different ways. And then it's not boring because you finish the section, and now you're on to a new section. It's a good stash buster. Like if you want to make the small version, that's why I did it again, because I had, you know, some colors that I was like, oh, I just want to kind of use these up. And actually I've done the baby blanket of that as well. So I guess technically kind of 3 times. But it's just, you know, it's fun to play.
Do you think like there is one shawl that, like if you had to describe Stephen West to somebody, like his personality and stuff, that shawl would represent him the best?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I think like for me, a quintessential Stephen West shawl is like a fantastic, you know, something where it's like a new section and it's just different, and the colors are going to play with each other, and they might carry through from section to section, or they might not. I think I would go with that one.
Well, I know that you have a book helping academics to publish their books. When you read his pattern, do you look at it critically? Do you think about like, oh, I would write it like that, I would explain it like that, or like, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's, you know, he knows what he's doing. You know, and I do think over time his patterns have gotten kind of clearer and easier to understand, and you can kind of follow the formula, you know. So no, I don't really have any criticism. Yeah, I love the Painting Shawls book. I bought that, of course, and I love that book. It's just like every shawl is good. Like I've bought some knitting pattern books where it's like, well, I'll knit one thing from it and then I never pick it up again. That one I've kept going back to, and I've got the yarn picked out for, you know, all the projects.
Well, if somebody is like on the side bench and they thinking like, should I join, shouldn't I join? What would your advice be?
Definitely join. You know, it feels, I mean, I'm not super involved in the entire knitting world, but this feels like one of the big events. So you get to meet a lot of other knitters, just like you're kind of in community on Instagram or on Ravelry or wherever you are. And, you know, the fact that he has the videos, he walks you through it, he helps you pick the yarn, like there's so much support for it that if you're going to start somewhere, you might as well start here.
Right. Well, I love having you as a guest of my channel. I'm so happy you're joining Martin and me, and it's going to be so much fun.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting.
Thank you.